another one. Other things, anything that would get you there. So, that's what we're talking about with means and ends. And now, what would it mean to use someone simply as means, or to treat a person as an end? Well, the means is kind of easy. This one's a bit easier to wrap your head around. What is it to use someone as a means? Think of an example in which you'd be using someone.
So like if you wanted like a job and you knew somebody that, I mean, it's not necessarily a bad way or a good way, but if you wanted to get a job and you knew somebody that worked there or
get you and this is why this right here is going to be important, but just getting favors from people or using the fact you know someone. So like if you met someone at a party who does like is the head of a company that sounds super interesting to you, you can use the fact that you met them and the fact that you talked about certain things as your means to talking about them, or talking to them about the job that has opened up, possibly as which will then in turn be the means to getting that job. That's one way of doing it. Another one of just any sort of way in which, you know, you are currently means for me, and I am means for you all. What is the ends in each case? So in what sense am I a means for you all?
Getting A's, I don't know.
Yeah, you're getting grades. Graduation, which will hopefully allow you to get a job you're happy with. So in a sense, I am a means for you all to succeed in your lives. And on the flip side, you are all a means for me to, one, have a job, and two, force people to sit in an audience and listen to my bad jokes for like 3 hours a week. Like these are both things yeah, so we are both getting something out of it, and the end for me is, you know, I get to smile and laugh, and I get to force people to listen to me, and I get some money out of it. So it all comes out very well. But here's the key word, and so what does it mean to treat someone as an end, though? Well, think of it back to here of everyone being the same. According to Kant, you cannot simply or merely use people. What that means is you use them to get what you want, but not giving a damn about them as a person in any way. So while we are using each other, and every human interaction is to some degree one in which we're using others as means, this is not one which is morally wrong, because we're also treating each other as ends in ourselves. And what do I mean by that? Well, when I'm standing up here, I consider it my duty to tell you all true things to the best of my ability, show up on time. If you turn in work, your work deserves to be looked at with attention and detail and my focus. And you all know that for me to come up here and teach you, nobody is sitting with their back to me right now. No one is throwing things at me. No one is like showing up. If you show up late, you have damn good reason to, because it's called MTA. But there's no sense in which you're just like, I hate this. No one's throwing things. Coffee's not flying. When we have like some unwritten rules, like if you want to get called on, raise your hand. No one's just screaming things out. If somebody says something you don't like, you're not booing your classmates. These are the sorts of things. And so this is what Kant means by treating someone as an end in themselves, is just to treat them as somebody who's worthy of your time and whose opinion matters, like you. So if you walk up to someone, and using someone simply as a means is just to treat them as a tool and not take into account their feelings, their desires, their wants. Basically to treat them not like a person. So what's an example, according to this, for Kant, of treating someone simply as a means, where you don't care about them as an end in any way? Pardon? Yeah, so a gold digger would be a case of like a person who gets in a relationship entirely for the money and the things it brings them, and just does not care about the other person in any way. And like to a degree of like, imagine the most like just is rude to this person, like doesn't give anything in return, just like beats them up all the time, like this sort of thing of like the most extreme case. That's using someone simply as a means. Now, however, like if we go with something like a sugar daddy relationship, like this is the case in which like one person is or sugar mommy or mama, I don't know. Anyway, so you have one older rich person and one younger person and they enter into something of a contractual sexual relationship in which the older person agrees to buy lots of things and the younger person agrees, but they're not technically dating. But you can see in this case how there's a sense in which no one is, like, I, for one, like, my feelings on this sort of thing is I'm not going to wade into anyone's views on these, but it's not the same thing as somebody who's doing it with no care, because there's at least some agreement of, like, I will respect you and what your desires are in this partnership, and you will respect me, and I'm not going to start, like, demanding that we do this, this, and this, and I'm going to just cut off this, and you're going to... So there's some sense in which, while this sort of arrangement is not a traditional relationship, there's still a sense in which you're using someone partly as an end in themselves, as opposed to like a full-on, like the craziest case would be someone who gets married to an old person and then murders them for the insurance money and to inherit. Like that's the case of like full-on using them simply as a means. Any sort of sexual assault case is another clear one. Like the difference between sexual assault and consensual physical intimacy is in one case, the partners are treating the other person as an end in themselves, and in the other case, one person is treating the other person simply as a means to their own pleasure or their own satisfaction. So that's another very clear case of the difference between sexual assault is one in which the assaulter is literally does not give a damn about the victim and does not care about her or his or their well-being, mental, physical, otherwise. While in a consensual sexual partnership, I mean, the reason people engage in them is they both get something out of it, but also there's a sense in which it's not just about them. And when relationships fall apart, it's very often because one person stops caring about the other as much. So that's what Kant is pointing to, is when you're using people simply as means, it's wrong, and it's wrong because you aren't treating them as someone equal to you. Alright, so that's the general gist, and in the final, okay, we're going to go with 7 minutes, we'll leave 5 early. Let's rattle through some issues that come up for you right off the bat. What are some issues with thinking that what it is just a matter of everyone having to be treated equally?
If society, like, different people have different ideas about what it means for society to collapse. What I mean in particular is, like, we were talking about gun stuff, and some people are like, oh, society will collapse if I can't protect myself, and then other people are like, society will collapse if people continue to...
Yeah, so here's what, like, in a case like murder, it's like very clear that you can define, like, if everyone shot someone else, we'd all be dead, society's over. Sure. But, like, if we got rid of our guns, well, a lot of people would be like, yeah, that's a perfectly fine society, and other people would be like, no, that is not, our society has collapsed, or all hell has broken loose, this is not something that's worth living anymore. And it's like very hard to define this. Another issue, what are some more issues that come up?
Well, my issue with this theory is that it's hard to define what a truly selfless or selfish act is.
Yeah. Yeah, because it seems like, so imagine that you're somebody, you're a robber, you come up to someone and you mug them, and you go, I'm taking half of your jewelry. You get to pick, though, which ones you want to give to me. This is to treat them as an end in themselves to some degree. Like, you aren't being fully selfish because you respect that they get to choose which pieces of jewelry, but also you're robbing them. Like, you are treating them, like, this is wrong, you are stealing their stuff, but you are kind of treating them partly as an end in themselves. Because you're like, you know, I will let you keep your wedding ring. I'm sure that's very sentimental to you. But... and it's just like, this is odd. So yeah, it's hard to define, like, when are you being truly selfish and when are you being truly selfless? Because also, like, you know, people, you point to charity work as like, this is a very good thing, and charity work is a good thing. But it's not like the person doing the charity work gets nothing out of it. Like, the fact is that helping other people generally makes us feel better and uplifts us. So it's not wholly a selfless thing, and it's not a wholly selfish thing all the time. And also, another issue with this is, what do you do when you have two conflicting duties? Like, if you have a duty to feed your child, and you have a duty not to steal, and you have no money. You have no money, you have a duty to feed your child, and you have a duty not to steal because you're part of a society. Because if everyone stole, hell would break loose. What do you do? Kant's not going to give you an answer. His answer is, well, actually, like, it's hard. You're just in this moment of, like, you have to figure out which is the bigger duty, but you can't define which is the bigger duty because both of them are violating this rule. So it's just very tough. Same as over here. Sometimes it doesn't seem to give you a clear answer. You do.
I was thinking of job, like look for a job that doesn't like, that has the skills that require which you possess. So that way, like, you can not only make money for yourself, but you can like make a better relationship with your coworkers and your boss.
And that's like the goal. And that's like the ultimate thing that we want to go for. And the problem is it seems like sometimes it can't give you the answers. Like in that case, he can capture it really nicely, I think. But there are other cases where it doesn't work so well. And another issue is, this is basically giving you some rules to follow. Like it tells you like, what would happen if everybody did this? What did we say before about rules?
Big
they can be broken.
Yeah, they can be broken, they're exceptions. So let's finish off with one. So what was one thing which we said? We said murder was one thing which Kant really didn't like because what would happen if everyone did it? What was the other one? Lying. But is there a time and a place to lie?
Yes.
Yeah.
People get paid for it.
Yeah. People get paid for it. Also though, in your how many of you have lied in your life? Yeah. I mean, let's be honest, we've all done it. When you lied in that moment, do you think it was the right thing to do? At least some of the time.
No.
Some of the time. Not all the time, just some of the time. Can you think of an example in which lying is the right thing to do? Yes, it seems like there are times in which lying is good to not hurt people's feelings. Also, the entirety of, like, parenting is a lot of lying to children. It's like, there is a man who lives up on the North Pole with a big beard. And, like, that makes Christmas pretty fun. Like, when you think there's a guy on your roof with reindeer, it's way more fun than when you're, like, 13 and you're like, my parents just got me some stuff.
What are you talking about?
Santa Claus.
Santa Claus is good.
Yeah, so this sort of thing. Another case, and this is a famous one. Imagine it's the Netherlands or Belgium or France in 1940, let's go 44, early 1944. Three people come up to your door, knock, 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 knock. You open the door and they say, hello, we're Jewish refugees we escaped a concentration camp. Would you mind if we hid in your basement? You go, okay, yeah, sure, hide in my basement. 10 minutes later, an SS officer comes to the door in full like black leather, knocks and says, have you seen any Jewish people here? What intuitively is the right thing to do?
Lie.
You lie through your teeth. You
Exactly.
look them in the eye and you say, I have not seen anybody, Jewish or otherwise. I've not seen another human in 3 days. And that's what you do. You do not say, why, yes, sir, I have seen some Jewish individuals. They're in my basement. Like, that is, something's gone wrong. And yet Kant is saying you cannot lie. So one way people have tried to go around this is, like, you don't quite lie. Like, you say things like, I'm really not sure. Or, like, I may have. But, like, this, it seems like the correct thing to do is you just lied to this man. And that is the right thing to do. And it seems like any theory that says you can never do a certain thing, you're going to find a situation in which there is the case. Or go back to murder. If your child's life is on the line, murdering seems like the right thing to do. Like, if somebody's coming after my kid with a knife, and my only options are shoot this person with a decent chance, I don't know where the gun came from. But I've never held a gun in my life, so I really don't know where it came from. But if those were my only options, it seems like the right thing to do. Or they're about to attack my child on the side of the Empire State Building, I just push them. That seems like the right thing to do. But Kant's gonna have to say no, because what would happen if everyone pushed everyone else off buildings? So what we have is another case in which, again, this is useful. It helps us understand why, in certain cases, we should just not murder, even if the consequences might be better. You shouldn't kill an innocent person, even if the consequences are better. But we're going to have cases in which it doesn't work perfectly either. So just keep these things in the back of your mind as we go throughout the rest of the semester, because they will be coming up, and we will see how both sides are useful when we look at things like, well, next week, I apologize, it's the most boring of all the cyber ethical issues, but it's the first one in the book, so it's the first one we teach. It's professional ethics, which is basically how to not be a crappy person in the workplace. So that's what we'll be talking about next week.
So there's no homework?
Nothing except for the readings. Yeah. And if you are one of the people who gave me your email, I will email you that stuff either this afternoon or tomorrow. But if you haven't heard from me by tomorrow night, shoot my email. Does everyone, let me write this down because I forgot my extra syllabuses. Alright, I'm gonna first shut off this recording. If you don't need my email, you can go. It's your weekend now.